Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hey everybody! So today we have something special, something I haven't done since my first horrible first time doing this. So when I first did my first review, I split it into two things. It was a review of His Majesty's Dragon and Kirby Air Ride. And I just didn't enjoy doing the double bill for that one. So afterwards, I decided to do a full review, since back then I was doing 20-minute reviews, or I was trying to do 20-minute reviews, and I was also doing like one review per week. So it just didn't add up correctly, and so I stopped doing it immediately in my second video. I would highly recommend you all just skip my first review. It's not that great, and most of my earlier reviews I still have some problems with. But today we're doing another double review. Now, unlike that review, I'm going to give clear delineations between the two things. For those of you who want to know, we're going to be reviewing Underwater, which is a movie that came out in 2020, and also The Elder Scrolls IV Oblivion. And I recently finished Oblivion a few weeks ago, and I just have been waiting to go ahead and review it. So the first thing is going to be a movie, the second thing is going to be a video game, specifically an action RPG from the Elder Scrolls series. In the description, I'm going to give a timestamp, so if you just want to listen to one of these, you can skip to it. I'm just going to have a timestamp down in the a chapter marker, so you can tap through and just skip to whatever part you want. And this is just a little message letting you know, and I hope you guys like this. Don't expect too many of these. I just do them when I don't have enough to talk about on one. So I'm going to have two. So, yeah. Alright, so this is the review of Underwater. For those of you who don't know, and I imagine many of you do not know, because this movie was not exactly like a huge hit. It made a few million, but it only made 41 million, and it had a production budget of 50 to 80 million. So yeah, we're probably not getting a sequel to this, which is a shame, because it's actually really good and more people should have watched it. Yeah, I'm going to say it. More people should have watched this. It's really good. The best way I can describe Underwater, like just the easiest way I can describe this movie, and in the completely spoiler-free way, is it's aliens, but underwater. Like the movie Alien, but underwater. That's the easiest way to describe this. Claustrophobic, monster hunting in the dark, but it's all underwater instead of in outer space. So the main difference that means actually is that things implode instead of exploding. Yeah. So that's basically it. For those of you who want a slightly better description, it's basically there's this underwater working in a basically near future drilling station at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, all the way down to the deepest levels mankind has ever explored, yada, yada, yada. And the main character is just getting ready to go to sleep, or getting ready to go to bed for her, day shift, because she either works on the night shift or she's, exhausted from her day shift and about to go to sleep. I think she was working on the night shift and she's about to go to bed for the day. And then the entire station starts failing. Something massive hit it, and it's, taking on water. They have to escape out into it and walk across the trench, but ooh no, something's hunting them. And maybe had something to do with this whole system failure they're going through. So, it's a good movie. Really good. If you like Alien, I think you'll love this movie. It's a lot of fun. Fun fact, though, Kristen Stewart is, the badass action heroine. And she actually does a great job. I hated the Twilight movies. I saw one of them one time at a friend's house, and I was like, I don't want to see any more of this. This is horrid. I hated those movies so much. But Kristen Stewart is actually a really good actor when she has a good script. Let's put it away. Those movies don't have any good things to them. The acting isn't great. But to be fair, they weren't given a great script either. And the source material, from what I've heard, is not great. So, I'm not going to blame the actor for that. And quite frankly, this has made me see that whatever the faults with Twilight, they were not her fault. Because she's actually really good at this. She plays the badass action hero really well. And quite frankly, she's like the new Ripley. I love that. It's go from doing the Twilight movies to doing this. Yes, I would love to see her in a sequel for this. Well, okay, maybe not her in a sequel for this. We'll get there. So, yeah. Really good movie. it also has a big twist near the end, which you'll be a fan of if you're into cosmic horror. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's not going to be anything. I won't say anything more than that until I get to my spoiler section. But yeah, it's really cool. I really hope you like the twist. You do have to pay attention, but if you know what you're looking for, you're going to be in for a treat. So yeah, the effects are really good. The station itself, like, it just fails. Like, it really gives the point of this thing is falling apart. The first sequence is literally her running through her hearing the buildings creaking and then an explosion, and then she starts hearing it and she starts running because she knows the entire wing, like the entire dock wing, is about to implode. And she starts banging on all the doors saying, we gotta get out! She runs for it, and her and one other person make it to the the hatch where they can seal off that entire section. They see a few people and they're not making it, so she ends up having to seal it off so the rest of the station doesn't lose pressure. And the other guy still console her, was like, you couldn't have saved them. We couldn't have saved them. And the whole control console was busted. She's an engineer, and she was able to open it and basically hotwire it so they could turn it on because it wasn't reading their cards. And if it weren't for her, like, she hadn't made it and just the other guy had, he wouldn't have been able to close it. He's like, look, if it weren't for you being here, we wouldn't have even been able to close this at all, and everyone would have died instantly. So, like that whole first scene, like, that's the scene. You have this small little scene where she just, like, kind of moves a spider out of the way, and she's just, brushing her teeth in this empty locker room. She starts hearing some noises, puts on, some clothes. She forgets to put on her shoes, which is, I watched this with my dad, and he was just like, yeah, she kind of left her shoes. Like, oh yeah, those would have been a good thing to have later on when you're running through a destroyed base. Yeah. And then she, obviously realizes the station's imploding and she has to get to one of the junctions. So she books it. I do like the nice touch of her banging on everyone's doors, trying to wake them up, trying to save as many lives as she could, even though none of them make it. Very sad. TJ Miller's in this too. He's like, he's fun. He's fun. He's nice. He's basically the guy, like, they're all, being serious and, like, we have to get to the escape pods. And he's just like, oh, great, what else can go wrong? And then something goes wrong. He's wonderful. I love TJ Miller. Basically, he's seen a lot of good stuff, honestly. He was fun in Big Hero 6. He was great in Deadpool. And he's amazing in this. So, you know what? He's a good actor. I don't really have much to say for the other actors. They kind of just fill their jobs. So there was another actor. She played the, what was her name? Emily. She was like the biological, the scientist. And so, she's kind of like the scientist, the young one, the intern-ish kind of person. So she's the innocent one you want to survive. If that makes sense? And then you have the, ex of Nora, I think that's Kristen Stewart's name, Lucian, and he's, the captain, but they're not like bitter exes, they're more of like, yeah, this just didn't work out between us, but we still have a working relationship, we're still friends at work, that kind of thing. And then, which actually was a nice twist, I kind of like the fact that it's like, yes, they're divorced, but they're divorced because they just couldn't live with each other, but they're still friends, like they repaired a relationship out of whatever it was. And I'm like, you know what? I kind of like that. You don't see that too often. You always see like the bitter exes with, the new husband or whatever. I like that. It was interesting. Then you have Liam, who's another engineer, and he's kind of like, he's pretty generic, honestly. He's Emily's boyfriend, apparently, but he's just all right. So yeah, that was basically it. It's interesting. It's an interesting movie. It's fun, very tense. You really like. One reason I say this is a lot like Alien is because when you're that far underwater, you might as well be in space. The pressure will kill you just as easily as the vacuum will. So it has a lot of similarities, but it does things different enough. And it has a lot of interesting sections it plays with underwater. Like the oxygen scrubber is not working. So like, it's not just immediate death. You're not just like suffocating. It's like, oh no, you're just not getting enough oxygen, but you're still scrubbing it. That's what's really fun. And you also have, like, the different bases, and the fact that you can actually walk around and move pretty effectively as long as you're on the seafloor. Like, they have a whole section where they're trying to get to the seafloor, because once they get there, they can try and walk to the other way station where they can get to the escape pods. So yeah, that was all interesting. This is basically where the spoiler-free section ends. So go ahead and, skip to the next one if you don't want spoilers. Elder Scrolls 4 is pretty good too, but we're going to this one now. So, this is really interesting for me. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a big fan of cosmic horror, which is the fear of the vast unknowable. That thing that you could never truly understand. And there's this moment in the locker room where Nora finds this, Lucian's, so basically she goes to this secondary early test station or whatever that was meant for, like, supply runs and stuff like that. And she finds Lucian's locker because he was the captain. He's been down here a long time when they were building this place. And he has this little, tack and string board in there. And, he obviously knew there was something more, because at this point they've been hunted by a monster. There's something really big that's wrecking the station. The station got hit by something really big. There's these small monsters that are ripping people apart. There are a few larger ones they've been attacked by. Most of the crew, including Lucian, is dead. So whatever he knew, they're not going to find out. But one of the images tacked on there is a drawing of Cthulhu. The Elder God created by H.P. Lovecraft. And the moment I caught that, as I was watching the movie, I caught that. And the moment I saw it, I actually had my dad pause the movie and go back so we could, freeze frame to it. And oh my god, it's Cthulhu. The monster is Cthulhu. And these things are like Elder God spawns or whatever, or extensions of his being or something. And it was. You see Cthulhu in a modern horror movie. Of course, he's shrouded, because the whole thing with Lovecraftian horror, and one of the reasons it actually hasn't you don't have a lot of Lovecraftian movies that are directly Lovecraftian, is because a lot of his things, a lot of his monsters were built around the idea that you never really had them described to you, not fully. You might get a few monsters like the Shoggoth, or like the half-human, half-Elder God things, like the Children of Yog-Sothoth. But the Elder Gods themselves are very rarely seen in the books, fully seen. Because they're supposed to be these great unknowable horrors that even looking at them can drive you insane. Cthulhu is probably the one we get the clearest view of as an actual being. And, it's a tentacle. And you guys might have heard of this, even if you don't know what Cthulhu is, you might have heard of it. For those of you who don't know, H.P. Lovecraft was a deeply disturbed man. He had a lot of horrible views, but it was the early 1900s. He was bad even for his time. He got slightly better as time went on, or at least more aware. His original works are a little hard to read. I have enjoyed them. I do admit, though, they're basically, okay, first up, huge warning for anyone who reads Lovecraft's original works as a result of this. Huge racist themes, huge classist themes in his book as an undercurrent. But what he did, and the reason he's actually become well known after his death, he wasn't that notable as a writer when he was alive, but after his death, over the years, people who read his work found that Lovecraft was afraid of basically everything, and I might go into more depth later on his stuff if I feel like it. I have a collection of his works. Is that he, as a result of being afraid of basically everything, he had this idea, had created this form of horror in his books that's based around the vast, unknowable things that lurk at the edges of mankind. Some of his famous quotes are things like, "Mankind lives on an island of blissful ignorance, and it was not meant that we would journey far. The sciences, each stretching in their own direction, has thus far harmed us minimally, but," and I am slightly misquoting this, but someday the piecing together of so much dissociating knowledge will bring us crashing down in madness and death, or have us fleeing towards that island once more, towards ignorance in a new dark age. Basically, the idea that mankind was incapable of fully understanding the universe and trying to only lead us to destruction, ruin, and madness. But the fact is, as humans, we wish to understand more, and we are drawn to understand more, so we will inevitably understand and fail as a result. It's this horror of something so vast and so large that you're not even an insect to it. You don't exist by its standards. And if it kills you or drives you mad, it didn't do it because it wanted you to go mad or die. It did it because it didn't even notice you were there. like you accidentally stepping on some random ant in your path. Basically, it wasn't that the monsters wanted to kill you, it's that they were so powerful they could destroy the world, and they didn't even realize that world had anything, to destroy on it. And the old gods are very powerful, ancient, mysterious, and all that stuff. There are a lot of interesting things that came out of his mythos. And cosmic horror, which he helped to create, has become pretty popular. Things like Bloodborne, and even just Dark Souls in general, draw on some of those themes. And a lot of movies and shows and stuff like that. Cthulhu is probably one of his two most notable contributions to pop culture. You've probably seen it a lot. It's basically a giant creature with scaly, almost humanoid, but it has dragon wings and a octopus for a head. Basically, if you've ever seen something coming out in alternate reality and has tentacles, yeah, you can thank Lovecraft for that. He also gave us the Necronomicon. He created that, actually, for his series. So if you watch Evil Dead, yeah, that's where that book came from. It wasn't just some random name they gave it. It's an actual book from Lovecraft's universe. And then the second most thing is the Innsmouth thing. So half human fish people, half human fish people kind of stuff with creepy seaside villages. That's also kind of him. And then Shoggoths, which are blob monsters that devour stuff. Those are probably his most notable stuff. The rest of his stuff is a little more obscure. But the general idea of cosmic horror has translated very well into the modern day, which is one of the reasons why his stuff is still regarded with some level of praise, even though it's kind of hard to read as a modern reader. But so I had to go in that divergence because it was really nice, because this, I feel, does capture the spirit of Lovecraftian horror. It feels like they just actually woke Cthulhu up, and it was like, oh, this random station fell on me, I guess I'll break it. Didn't even seem to notice them, really. Like, it sent out things to try and kill the escape pods at the end, but it felt like, sort of like the individual things it was releasing were doing it, not necessarily the Cthulhu itself was actively moving to do it. And of course, the heroine, Nora, stays behind, so the last two survivors, Emily and her husband, can get into the escape pods. She sent off her husband, and Emily realizes what's happening, that the other escape pod, the third one, has been damaged, and she's not going to be able to make it. She tries to say, no. It's like, Nora's like, no, you're young, you have life, I've come to terms with this, go. And I do like that Emily's like, no, I'm not just going to leave you. And so Nora ends up punching her into the pod and locking her in there, and she says, oh, I'm sorry, it looks like it hurts. And I had to chuckle for a second, because it was this really realistic, brutal sacrifice. I'm giving my life. I'm going to hope they're going to be better than me and my husband were. But at the same time, it's like, it's kind of funny. It's like, oh yeah, that's how somebody would actually react. It's like, oh, did I actually break your nose? Like, I'm so sorry, I'm trying to save your life right now. And then, of course, she blows up the nuclear reactor, so all the little squid monsters coming off Cthulhu won't go after the escape pods. And, of course, Cthulhu definitely did not die from that. For those of you who saw this movie, no, there is no freaking way Cthulhu died from that. Cthulhu and the Elder Gods are basically immortal. Even when they die, they just start going to sleep. Like, the whole thing is that they're already dead and dreaming and sleeping, and they bump up psychically with mankind. But they'll come back to life eventually, because they are beyond mortal. They're gods. Like, in the truest sense of the word, they are elder gods, the old ones. And so Cthulhu in the original story had a ship literally rammed through its skull. It just kind of blew up into sludge, and as they drove away, as it was being pulled back into the door because it wasn't time for it to wake yet, it just kept reforming, and it drove one of the other crew members mad because he looked at it too long. A nuke was not going to kill him. At worst, it sent him back into Relay. And actually, that's one of the things I'm really wondering is, like, how much did the company know? They know they were drilling into the sunken city of Relay, which I'm assuming that's where it was. It wasn't just some random trench. They, actually hit the city where Cthulhu was sleeping. Again, Cthulhu mythos. It's weirdly interesting and intriguing at times. It's almost the mythos, it almost feels more interesting to read about than read the stories it's in. So, yeah. Lovecraft had a lot of weird stories. One fun final thing I'm going to mention, because I'm kind of turning this into a Cthulhu video. Cthulhu episode. Surprise! one of my favorite, like the Lovecraft story I'd probably hold as like the most absurd and probably the least offensive on a modern day standard is, Lovecraft was writing some of these stories back when air conditioning was first becoming a modern convenience in cities. And so, one of the stories had a person using an air conditioner and some medicine to keep himself alive and cheat death. I'm not even joking. He kept because he can keep his room so cool, he could keep death at bay. And when his AC failed, he couldn't get enough ice and died. It is the height of absurdity. But back then, it was this new weird technology that not a lot of people understood, and they have this whole sequence where they, like, show you how it works. And it's like, oh yeah, this stuff used to be weird sci-fi to them. An air conditioner used to be considered almost weird sci-fi. I love it. It's hilarious. So yeah, that would be the Underwater. I'd probably give this movie like a 9 out of 10. Highly recommend it for those of you interested in like horror, thriller, anything with Cthulhu, alien movies. Like seriously, we haven't gotten a good alien movie in years. Might as well watch this. It deserves love. And if enough people watch it on Amazon or rent it and stuff like that, they'll see it has secondary out of theater value and go ahead and greenlight sequel. Please greenlight sequel. Seriously, do it. This is actually a really good movie, and I don't know why more people didn't watch this, but you all listening have a responsibility. Go watch this. Alright. That's that. Moving on. For those of you who are just coming here from who skipped over Underwater, this is going to be our review of The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. So yeah. A lot of fun. Really enjoyed this game. There's not really... the reason I'm doing these double bills right now is because I just don't have a lot to say about both these. I ended up having a lot to say about the other one for spoiler reasons, but yeah, this one's just a good game. For those of you who don't know, The Elder Scrolls is a RPG series by Bethesda. They're the people who do Fallout and also did the new Doom. So, their newer games have been getting a little more bad. Fallout 76 is a trash fire. I hated Fallout 4. But I really loved Skyrim, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. It's probably one of the more popular games probably the most popular game they've ever made. I probably should have said the people who made Skyrim. The thing that's been on like 10 consoles. Let's see here. It's been on the Switch. It's been on all the VR headsets. It's been on the PS3, the Xbox 360, the PS4, the PS... it's going to be on the PS5. It's been on the Switch. It's been on the Xbox One. Been on PC. This thing is everywhere. Like, everywhere. They even had a joke where you could play an adventure game version of it on Alexa. So yeah, this thing is hugely popular. Skyrim was a major hit. And it's the fifth game in the Elder Scrolls series. It takes place in a fantasy world that's actually pretty interesting. There's a lot of cool things. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion is actually the fourth game in the series. It takes place before Skyrim. The Elder Scrolls actually does an interesting thing. See, they have a lot of player choice where you get to make major decisions, but the way they rectify that in the canon is that they have these games take place centuries apart. So all the history books that talk about it are very unclear of, yes, during the final battle, it's not entirely sure what happened. We are still up to debate. We know the final evil is defeated, but we're not really sure if the final guy turned into kind of a tyrant and was killed by his friends or not, eventually. It all worked out in the end. It all eventually led us here. So no matter what path it takes, they all eventually had to work out into a common future in about 100 years. So you don't get as much choice. Like, for example, in Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, there's the Imperials and the Stormcloaks fighting a war. But some of the, eventually you go into some dialogue options, and it's eventually realized that even if the Stormcloaks win the Civil War, and get free Skyrim, the Empire has more resources and eventually will retake Skyrim. So in Elder Scrolls 6, in a few hundred years, there will be mention of the Stormcloak Rebellion, led by Ulfric Stormcloak. And all they have to really say is that eventually the Empire won, because even if they win the initial Civil War, a few months later, they'll be there with the full might of the Legion, take Skyrim, and, that's that. Also, in a few hundred years, whatever heavy sanctions will probably be offline. In addition, we won't be in Skyrim, we'll probably be in one of the other provinces. It's actually a really interesting way to give players freedom of choice and still have the story take place in a single universe where all those choices took place. Better than Mass Effect 3 did. Sorry, I have to take the pot shot at Mass Effect 3. It's a required thing by all video gamers. We're required to declare that ending is terrible. I mean, it is terrible. I played that game a few years ago, earlier this year. It's bad, yeah. But Skyrim and Oblivion. Back to Oblivion. I talked about Skyrim, so back to Oblivion. Oblivion's actually really interesting. I think it has a better hook than Skyrim. So they have you being a prisoner, because you always are. You're always a prisoner in Elder Scrolls games. And the Emperor of Tamriel comes into your cell, because apparently your cell was supposed to be empty because it has a secret passageway. Because all his children have been killed, and now assassins come for the Emperor of Tamriel. His guard, the Blades, take him down into the tunnels, and they leave it open, so you decide to, escape, obviously, because you're apparently going to be executed soon, according to your fellow prisoners. You fight off some things, and then you join up with the Emperor after being attacked by some cloaked men in red cloaks, wielding strange weapons and magic. The Emperor's guards manage to attach them, and eventually, as the guards are whittled down, you decide to join up with them to help, because the Emperor says he's seen you in his dreams, and the Blades trust his visions. And you and one other guard go with the Emperor as the others hold off the growing tide, but a secondary passage opens up as the other guard's distracted, and you watch helplessly as the Emperor of Tamriel is stabbed. You defeat the assassin, but it is too late. The Emperor lies dying at your feet. With his final words, he tells you to find his last, hidden, illegitimate heir and to bring him the sacred amulet that will guard our realm against the forces of Oblivion. Dun dun dun. And it's a really good hook. I like it. So basically what's going on here, and you find this out later in the game, but those of you who have played Elder Scrolls or just talk about it will understand pretty early on. So you go to find the son. He was raised in a priory with Joffrey, this other member of the Blades who was retired, looking after the illegitimate son, because their bloodline is bound to this divine protection on the human realm, the Mundus, the world of Tamriel, that guards against basically demons, the Daedra, the Oblivion Daedra. Although the Daedra aren't demons, actually, and I do want to go into Elder Scrolls lore, and you can't stop me. So the founding myth of the Elder Scrolls Tamriel world is that Mundus, their realm, their universe, their world was created by the Aedra. Now, the Aedra are basically the gods. They're the divines. But all the Aedra, as a result of the very complex creation myth, which is actually really well thought out, use most of their power for Mundus. So they're actually extremely weakened. They can only grant a handful of blessings from time to time, and none of them can really interact with the world directly, except under very, very specific and auspicious occasions. They need sort of a power boost to even interact semi-physically with the world. However, there were others of their kind who did not help in the creation. The Aedra literally means those who are us, I believe. And the Daedra is those who are not us. So the Daedra aren't actually evil, per se. They're just those who didn't want to help in the creation of humanity and the human world and all the other races. The elves and whatnot. Which is actually an interesting twist. I like how the Daedra, there are some Daedra who are cruel and evil, that's their whole thing, but they're more complex as a species because they're not just generically evil. They're the gods who did not want to create. They didn't want to give up their power to form a human world. They decided they would like to keep their power and not create this. So they're not evil, they just didn't have anything to do with Mundus and see it more as a plaything than their great project. I like that dichotomy. I think it's really interesting and adds a lot of texture to their world, because as you interact with the Daedra, you realize that not all of them are evil. They're just gods, They're not necessarily cruel gods. There definitely is a god of cruelty amongst the Daedra. And there are even some entire races who have a majority of their race in a religion that's based around the Daedra. There are even the Dark Elves, for example, were apparently once outcasts of the High Elves who pledged themselves to 4 Daedra, who they believed represented, in their eyes, noble qualities. And these Daedra are the Daedra who are more ambiguous. The Daedra of Deceit, Azura, the Seer, Things like that. And it's like, okay, so these Daedra aren't necessarily good, but they're not bad. Heck, one of the Daedra is almost the champion of paladins. She's called Merida, and she loathes all undead. So she's literally, her weapons destroy the unholy, basically. She's all about purifying things, laying the dead to rest and burning away the undead. She's probably the only objectively good Daedra, because basically everyone can agree, killing all those undead servants summoned by evil liches and whatnot, or those who turn themselves into liches for dark reasons, probably deserve Merida's wrath. They probably murdered the people who raised them from the dead. Or they grave robbed them. One of the two. Very few necromancers get their parts legitimately. I think that's pretty cool. So, but obviously, since the Daedra are invading from their realm of Oblivion, one of the evil ones. So it's, what is it? Molag Bal? Is that it? No, it's not. Dagon. So, the Dagon, the Prince of Destruction and Change, has sent his agents, his human agents, called the Mythic Dawn, the Cult of the Mythic Dawn, to assassinate the Emperor and kill all his sons, because the amulet he wears, as long as it's worn by someone who was crowned king in front of the dragon fires, those fires will remain lit, and as long as the fires are lit, Oblivion cannot invade Tamriel. But now the Emperor's dead, and no is on the throne with the necklace. Time for the fires to go out. By the time you get to the town where the heir is, there's an Oblivion gate waiting for you, a gateway into Oblivion. And the Daedra invaded and ransacked the town. You had to go in there and save him, and then help, destroy the rest of the Daedra, and you had to go into the gate and close it in order to save them. And that's what you do a lot in Oblivion. You can go up to 100% of the game. You can close 51 gates in total. Most people won't close that many. You get unique enchanting items, and your goal is to figure out who these people were, the Mythic Dawn, where they are, figure out how to stop this, and how to get the amulet back, because they stole it, while you were going to rescue the prince. And, it's a very fun game, lots of fun choices and places you can go. I find that so every game like this, the open world style games, has the Mage Guild, the Thieves Guild, and the Warriors Guild, but they actually have quests that seem much more tailored to that. Like the Mages, you have to go get a recommendation from all the regional colleges before you can be a part of the Imperial Cities College. And these quests are very much things that you need to be a mage to do. You can technically do them with just like scrolls and some basic knowledge, but they're exponentially easier for a mage. The Warriors quests are kind of just generically fighting, which is fine because you could be a spell sword, and the Warriors really just care about you doing the jobs and getting the party done. But the Thieves ones are also about stealing. You have to actually meet quotas, It's like, hey, you need to steal this much or I'll give you more jobs. Get to it. That's all really interesting. And they all have their own plot lines and quests, and everybody's doing different stuff. The game can actually change over time, too. Like, for example, an entire regional mages guild gets wiped out, and all the people in there, including trainers and unique vendors, just die. Which is a part of Elder Scrolls. You can actually kill most of the NPCs. There are still a few indestructible ones because they hadn't entirely worked this out, but a lot of the NPCs are killable, except for kids, because kids get invincibility because otherwise the rating might go up, I guess. Seriously, what's the deal with that? You can literally befriend someone, lure them into the back, and murder them, absorb their soul into a staff, and summon a copy of them. But murdering a child is too much. You can literally kill every other person except for a few essential quest givers, and you can just leave the world an orphanage. It's just weird. I'm sorry. I get that part of it. It's like, we don't want people killing children, but it's like, people can do a lot of messed up stuff. It just seems weird. I don't know. I guess maybe they would get rated as an M-rated, but it just seems odd to me. They have all this other horrific stuff. Like, seriously, in Elder Scrolls 5, for example, you literally have a blade where the people who trust you the most, you have to kill them in order to power it up. Like, you have to get them to become someone who trusts you enough to go on quests with you, and then if you kill them, the blade gets stronger. Like, but child murder is somehow drawing the line there. Okay, whatevs. Whatever. But yeah, it's all pretty interesting. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. The main quest line's fun. I like to go around and do a little bit of everything. They even had a H.P. Lovecraft reference. Hint, hint, for those of you who watched this whole thing. Yeah, they had a whole thing that's like a reference to Shadows of Innsmouth, which I thought that was a lot of fun. They have some fun werewolf stuff. There's some fun thing with like a werewolf at one point. Lots of different unique places you can go and see. The graphics are definitely, of their time, but they're pretty good for their time, to be honest. And you can get some HG mods that really line it up. The speech minigame you can play is terrible. Like, it's the only thing I think is objectively... You have to do this weird pie minigame, and it's dumb. That whole system, terrible. Just use magic, give yourself the best speech, and let everybody tell you everything. That's what I do. I have a single spell that gives me boosts my thing to 100 and charms them for 100. And I just touch them. It goes for 1 second. I talk to them because it freezes that. That's all you need. Magic users can break this game in half, combat-wise. I created a custom spell that I called Wizard's Fury, and it just... not Wizard's Fury, Elemental Fury, and it eventually got dumb because I figured out a way to... See, if I got the Atronach thing, which gives you spell absorption, but you absorb telekinesis if you have 100 spell absorption, and it can give you more mana than you put into it due to a weird glitch. So, if you do it at just the right values, you can give more mana than you put in for a massive spell. So I had 100 lightning, 100 fire, 100 frost, 100 of weaknesses to all those elements, plus 100 weakness to magic, plus a small amount of just regular health damage, a paralysis for 1 second, and then that telekinesis spell. And I could literally cast it infinitely for free. And after I got that spell, it was literally C, which is the magic cast button, over and over again. Because even the few things that took like 2 or 3 hits to kill, which as I got higher and higher level it didn't matter. Because I just fired it. It's just dead. The only major problem I had with the game was the leveling. So, in the game, you have to get, once you get a certain amount of points, like, as you level up skills as you use them, and once you've gotten a certain amount of levels in each skill, once you've gotten, I think it's 50, yeah, basically, once you've leveled up enough skills, you get to level up your character to the next level. And what that'll do is it'll buff, magicka and health and stamina. And you also get to increase your major attributes. So you have health, endurance, stuff like that. You have 6 of them. And willpower is useless if you have the Atronach perk because you don't regenerate magicka, and that's its only real purpose. So I didn't put any points into that. Put most of my points in intelligence and then other stuff. The problem is, as I was playing the first playthrough, and I stopped halfway through on that one, you have to basically... Since you're using your skills to level up, you either have to set all the skills to things you don't use at all, and the major skills that'll determine when you level up. Because you get points in the attributes depending on how far your skill is. So you upgrade minor skills. If you do a skill 5 levels, you'll get +5. If you don't, you'll only get 1. And so you always want to go for that, otherwise you're going to be really weak in the higher levels. The problem is, if you set your major skills, which are the ones that trigger the level up, to that, you have to go minor skills. You have to have minor skills in everything, so you can always be leveling them up. And you have to have the major skills to the point where you can actually, level up at least one thing each time. So you have to train the minor skills, specifically to up to 5 each, then do a major skill, and then do the 5. And it felt like I was either sacrificing efficiency, or I was literally just training skills whenever I felt like doing that, and then using only like 1 or 2 skills, and then once one of those skills reached 5, setting aside time to train the rest. It wasn't that much fun, so I got the XP leveling system, which gives you experience when you kill stuff or complete quests or visit new locations. And I started a new playthrough and played with that, and I like that leveling system better. I think the leveling system is the worst part of this game. I like the attributes. I just think giving you making sure you can only efficiently level your character if you do this very specific method really kills the enjoyment in the game. Just does. But yeah, aside from that, I really enjoyed it. Once I got a mod that fixed the leveling system. But that's the fun thing about Elder Scrolls games. They have so many mods, so you can play it basically any way you want. Those were pretty much the only mods I had on, aside from the unofficial patch, which, again, get that as well. You can find all this at nexusmods.com. They have all the mods you'll need for this game. It's really easy to install, nice, quick, done. It's an older game. These things are just normal. So, yeah. All in all, lots of fun. As for... yeah. So, I would give this game like I want to say an 8, but more like a 7.5 out of 10 if I was rating it. It's a fun experience. I think if you enjoy Elder Scrolls games, you'll get a kick out of Oblivion. It's actually probably a better story and plot than Skyrim, but Skyrim's gameplay... Actually, you know what? I'm going to give it an 8.5. I'm going to give it an 8.5. Because I'm comparing to Skyrim. Like, Skyrim is a solid 8, in my opinion. And this is actually better, in my opinion. I like this more than Skyrim. I will say that. Skyrim's magic system is very underdeveloped. It's very streamlined. I do not like that super streamlined. I think that as a gameplay, this game is better, aside from the leveling system. Skyrim's leveling system of just getting a perk and, leveling as you use the skills, but not having it affect your attributes is better, but they only have strength, magicka, and stamina, which, health, magicka, and stamina, which I think is dumb, and just a single perk point instead of the growing method of attributes. So, I will say I like Oblivion more. I will say Skyrim as a game is more put together, and you need less mods to enjoy it. Good way to say it. It's kind of turned into a review of Skyrim, too, huh? Oh, well. I might fully review Skyrim at one point, but that's all for now. So I'll give this an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely, if you're into older games, definitely check it out. It's one of Bethesda's better works, aside from the speech system and leveling system. This was a lot today, I know. 2 reviews for the price of 1. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm not sure if I'll do this again, but this does feel more put together than my first time doing this. So who knows? I might enjoy getting some more stuff reviewed. I doubt it. I doubt I'm going to be doing this too often because it just takes a lot of time to review even one thing per week to constantly be getting new content for you guys. So maybe look forward to this in the future. Who knows? This was fun. This is going to have another cutoff point. This is my final words on that kind of stuff. I find it funny that I didn't realize it, but these do have a connective tissue. Both of them have references to H.P. Lovecraft in it. I just realized this at the end. Because they have that whole homage to Shadows over Innsmouth, and the Daedra are kind of Lovecraftian-ish, like adjacent. Actually, Hermaeus Mora, one of the Daedra, is basically a Lovecraft monster. So yeah. Actually, this is hilarious. Even when I grab basically 2 unrelated things, it turns out they have a connective tissue. Oh, the fun patterns the human mind can find in everything. Oh, I love it. Okay. So, I'm almost done with Resident Evil 8. Hopefully I'll be able to have that guy for you guys to review by Tuesday. I know you're getting 3 video game reviews in a row. You must love it. So, yeah. Hope you like this, guys. See you next time. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to The Dragon's Library. Please, subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.